Good evening and welcome to Talkback. I'm Scott D. Ford. We've got Mark Ashby and Mikayla Dodge. Tonight we'll be tackling the Arab-Israeli question. No, not at all. Welcome back to Misfit Mashup. I'm sorry. At least I've introduced people. I'm Scott. That's Mark. That's Mikayla. And we're here to talk about all things that are involved. Mark Ashby, our wonderful guest who's with us tonight. Hi, Mark.
Hello. Talking about me, boy, for an hour, a whole hour. I don't know if I've got enough material to last that long. I thought I was going to do a solid like 10, 15.
Yeah, something. And the hard part is, I had to do this last month. There's no way to avoid it because I know, like you prefer to talk about what your team is doing and how, because of course you have a great team and they've been doing such wonderful things when you guys were acting out for ALS, and now you moved over to acting out for good, and you've got so much wonderful stuff to talk about. So we can do that, but we are going to try and delve a little bit into the who is Mark kind of stuff. So let's say hi to Mikayla.
Hi, Mikayla.
Hello.
I know
Hi,
Mikayla.
everybody. Yeah, I know Mark. I'm so glad I've gotten the chance to work with him and look forward to working with him more in the future and getting to know him tonight through this awesome show.
Same here.
We're so happy to have you here. Thanks so much. Now, Mark, you're mainly known for being out with Acting Out with Good, and you've got Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, coming up. You want to start there?
Sure, might as well. I mean, you plug the thing that, you hope the folks will tune in for. Yeah, we decided that we're going to get back to we always do a show, in the fall, early winter, whatever you technically want to call this around Thanksgiving time. And we hadn't done a real holiday themed show for 5 years. We did a version of the Christmas Carol, a musical version of Christmas Carol back in 2017. So the rights had just come available earlier this year in the spring, I believe, for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the Rankin Bass from the 1960s, that animated special. That just became available this year, so we wanted to jump on it right away before anybody else does. It's kind of a thing, like you want to be the first to do it. So this is, if you know that story, that show, it is largely the same telling with a lot of the same lines in there, like Donner saying his beak blinks like a blinking beacon, things like that. They are intact, but they did add a song here or there from Johnny Marks. Rocking Around the Christmas Tree is actually part of it as well. But we are doing this for to raise money, as anybody who knows Acting Out for Good, Acting Out for ALS. We always have a cause attached. And this time we are raising funds for the Heart of the Earth Sanctuary and Rescue, which is a local Allegheny County-based, I guess you could call it a special needs animal shelter. And they have been, Carrie and her son Hayden have been involved in our shows from our very first one, Willy Wonka Jr., back in 2014. We know the work that they do. We are animal lovers also. So we just thought we wanted to support them with this one. And it will be at Braddock Middle School on Holland Street in Cumberland on the, let's see, 2 weekends from now, the weekend after Thanksgiving, December 2nd to 4th. Friday and Saturday shows are at 7 o'clock, and the Sunday show is at 2 o'clock. And it runs a little over an hour, I would say, just slightly. Those added songs make it go a little over an hour, but we're not taking an intermission. So if you got antsy kids, we don't have to worry about, interrupting the flow. Mikayla seems to like that. So yeah, that's the current Acting Out for Good project.
You're like a host's dream, because I asked you one question and you can go for a while on that topic, which is terrific. You answered like 5 follow-ups in doing that. So you've got a cast that's doing basically the Rankin and Bass production. They must love that. I know a couple of the folks that you got in the show are absolutely loving. I know you've got Ellen McDaniel Weissler playing Yukon Cornelius.
Yes.
And just bubbled like a crazy person. You told me.
Yeah. Ellen was she initially came in and read for Mrs. Claus and Mrs. Donner, I believe, which they're important parts, but they're not that big. And then as Ellen was leaving, she said, "Boy, I wish you would consider casting against type, and I would love to read for Yukon Cornelius." And I let her go. And then the more I thought about it, I thought I shouldn't have let her walk out of the room because she was the last person of the night. So I messaged her later and I said, "Hey, if I sent you some lines for Yukon, would you read, send me a video?" And I would love to do it. And so she nailed it. Like she knew the part. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch. We like to do non-traditional casting. As Mikayla knows, when we just did a version of Godspell Jr., this year. Mikayla was the music director for it, and we decided to do a girl power version of Godspell, the junior version of Godspell. So we had an all female cast that was in that. So we are all up for non traditional casting and acting out for good. We just want people to have a good time and enjoy themselves in roles that they might not otherwise get a chance to play, like Ellen is.
And that's probably for me my greatest joy as a producer, and you must feel it as well, is when somebody didn't think they were going to get something or earn something, and you see that spark inside them, and you're like, hey, how about you do this? They just take off like a rocket. And
Yeah.
anybody who knows Ellen as a human being knows that she will be super as Yukon Cornelius, as I'm sure your entire cast will. So let's go back to Mikayla. You guys worked together. What was that like, Mikayla?
Oh my gosh. So I worked with Mark when we did Wedding Singer. And that was my first time working with Mark. And honestly, it was my first time working in a theater where I didn't feel the stress and the drama that usually comes along with theater. It was like a huge family, and everyone just was so wonderful and welcoming. And I mean, any chance I get to be able to work with the acting out group is just an absolute joy, because they really are, they do it for the love of theater. And like, it's so nice to be able to feel that energy when you're working with a group.
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely vital, and it keeps things going and moving. Speaking of animals, you said you're doing this upcoming Rudolph production as a benefit for an animal shelter. I have a new dog, Miss, and she's never been involved with a broadcast before. So if she inserts herself and makes her broadcast debut tonight, please be understanding. She's a British Bloodhound Dachshund. So yeah, she's quite active and interested in what's going on. But so acting out for good has moved from acting out for ALS. What inspired that change? Did you just want to do more than just the one cause?
It was well, that was part of it. We had done for well, let's see, we incorporated technically in 2013. Our first show was until 2014. Just as some backstory for why we started as acting out for ALS. My mother lived with ALS, although we didn't know until about a year before she passed away. But she lived with ALS for about a decade or so. And ALS is a neurodegenerative condition, which basically, just to boil it down, your brain and your muscles aren't working together that well anymore. People like Stephen Hawking, is probably one of the most famous examples of someone who lived with ALS. But after my mother passed away in 2013, she was a teacher, and we decided we wanted to kind of carry on her memory. So we started acting out for ALS initially as a youth theater group to raise money for people who had needs connected to ALS or for local ALS organizations. Because a lot of those things either weren't covered by insurance enough or weren't at all. Things like maybe you need a new ramp to get up to your front door, or some modifications to your bathroom, things that I saw that my mother had to deal with. And so that was the initial impetus. But after we got to through COVID, we everybody had to kind of stop what they were doing, or at least the traditional way they were doing it. And we didn't have an in-person show for a year and a half, probably. And as we were coming out of that, we realized, what's that?
That did that didn't stop you though. You kept
No.
doing production even online. Let's talk about that before we move on to the next part.
Okay.
'Cause
Sure.
I like us. I mean, you were founded in 2014. We were about the same time. So
Hmm.
it's kind of an interesting thing that you and I also did not quit doing shows online in person. You did See How They Run. You did gosh, what were the other shows
Well,
you
See
did
How They
during
Run was see, I just directed that one. That was the embassy, but we did do a couple of video projects. Uh, the one was called "The Show Must Go Online," which was written specifically during the pandemic. It was supposed to be like, we can't be in school, and our school play is supposed to be happening. What are we going to do? So then it was kind of like a Zoom style thing. But yeah, we tried to do as much as possible. We did a holiday album. Mikayla knows about that too. She sang a song on our holiday album.
Yep. So I mean, and that's the important thing that I think folks who are outside the arts don't notice is that we inside the art take a really big interest in our community. Um, you get a lot of charity work, and that's why I'm so happy to hear your expansion into ALS acting out for good. Uh, we also do some of that. We just helped out with the veterans race, and they also expenses that weren't covered by VA. and we were happy to help them do what they needed to do. So it's always a pleasure to highlight the charity work that the arts gets to do, because everybody thinks, it's all about applause. It's all about standing ovations and knowing lines. No, it's about knowing people and helping them out. So anyway, you went through COVID.
Right, we were through COVID. The first show that we did in person, if you don't count we did a kind of a, what do you want to call that, Mikayla? You were part of. We called it Past, Present, Future. We took some of our previous shows and just kind of brought back some of the original cast from when we did Aladdin or Willy Wonka, King and I. Those shows. We brought people back to do songs and even some of the dances from those. That was, and we also did it was technically supposed to be for Zoom, but we did it. It's called Bad Auditions on Camera. It was, and Mikayla was one of the performers in that who was trying to get a job on it. Was it a soap opera? Is that what it was supposed to be? I think
Yeah,
you all were auditioning for
it was supposed to be like a court drama, and
court
we were
drama.
all
That's yeah,
auditioning, and we were all terrible, and the audience
right.
got to vote who was
Yeah,
their favorite to get the part.
yeah.
So
So we did that as in like an outdoor. Well, I mean, it was a covered outdoor venue. So that was technically the first in-person thing that we did. That was mainly just a fundraiser for us to keep going. But in this long-winded answer that I'm giving, we switched to become a doing business as, officially acting out for good with our production of Next to Normal, which was in the summer of 2021, which was our return to uh, live performance, in-person performances of new material for us. And with that, we just decided, because we didn't know anybody that was in need in the area that had gotten in contact with us, or if they had, they said, well, everything we've got is pretty well covered, or we're financially stable enough, we don't need the assistance. So we took the theme of Next to Normal, and we decided, which is a show about the kind of the effects of mental illness on one family and their relationships. And because we had it at Kaiser High School, we chose to raise money for mental health services in Mineral County schools with that one. And we did raise $1,000 coming out of COVID for that. But yeah, it was really just kind of like there are so many other causes that we could be contributing to. Not that we ever wanted to leave the ALS behind, because that's, for me, that's always going to be something that's close to me.
Sure.
But since then, we've raised for a group that has done that I'm actually a board member of, that works with people in recovery from addiction and mental illness issues. They use music therapy. So we with our production of Our Town, we raise money for them. A family member of one of our production team members had a really bad bout of COVID where she almost died and had a lot of medical expenses for that. So our production of Matilda last fall, we were able to donate some to her. So yeah, when the need arises, we just want to be able to fill that need, and that's just that's been our mission all along. Is that yes, we want to create the art, we want to perform, we want to put on a good show, but the idea is that especially with kids, you can teach them that you can use your art for a higher purpose, which obviously you know a lot about as well.
Sure. Art is power. I mean, art is the opportunity to exchange ideas. Art is the opportunity to do so many different things. And when you connect it to charity, it's great. But the other thing that really works well, and I've had the opportunity to experience, probably you now as well, legacy. You've had people that when you had done shows with them years ago, and now they come back and you're doing shows with them again, or they've asked you to come and do some of their shows, which is truly for me as a producer, someone who's had folks come through my programs and then start programs of their own and say, "Hey, Scott, would you mind acting for me?" My mind gets blown every time that really does. First off, that I'm that.
Mhm. You're a memorable guy. No, what I like along those lines, it's not so much. I mean, that sort of thing does happen, but back in our acting out for ALS days, I'll never forget. There was, after our first show, there was a girl who she's in college now, but I think she must have been about 9 or 10 when we did our first show, and she was making at the after the last show, she gave me this bracelet that had some like ALS kind of connection on, like she wrote like defeat ALS or something on it. And I said, "Oh, this is nice. Is this for me?" She's like, "You can have this one. I'm going to sell a lot of these, and I'm going to donate the money to you all." So just like when little kids come up with ideas like that on their own, or they do a project at school. I've had kids do projects at school about this is what ALS is, and this is why we need more research funding for it. It's just really neat to know that, beyond the art, you've affected their lives that way, and they know more than they did before, and they're going to take that knowledge and hopefully plow it into some activism.
And they're kids. They're
Hmm.
kids. It's not like these are complex concepts. Charity is a fairly easy concept to help someone who's less fortunate than you, but we seem to forget that as adults. And that's one of the things that I love about your work. First off, as a personal fan of your stuff, is that you help people reconnect with the childlike inside of them and make it easy for them to digest simple, home worthy principles like charity. So again, bravo, my point of view. But for example, not the only thing you've got coming up. You've also got Big, right?
Right. Well, that's not an acting out project, but a lot of the acting out people that I know from our shows are in that. That is, I direct for the Potomac State College Theater program, which is kind of fun. I mean, I'm a hired hand on that one, just like pretty much everybody else is there. But the good thing about working at Potomac State as opposed to acting out, we don't have our own house where we can just like put up the sets and have, our own little green rooms and our costume shop and things like that. We have our, studio in the Vale, it's not big enough to have shows in. But with some place like Potomac State, you can just have it there. They have their stage. We are the program that is going to be going on there in the early spring. So we get to build more elaborate sets. And in the case of Big, we're going to have to figure out how to make that piano that they dance on. And, how do we get the idea of a carnival at the beginning of a show? It's a lot of fun. There's a really great team that I work with there as well. And it's just a lot of fun to be able to direct those shows just because it pushes me as a director to think bigger. And in this case, I really do get to think big. This is, literally with the title, it is a big show. So I am looking forward to that one. But yes, I get about a month and maybe a month and a half break before I have to start thinking about that show intensively.
Well, as you recall, we did you on to be Mark Ashby. Part of Mark Ashby is acting out for good. Part of Mark Ashby is working for Potomac State. Part of Mark Ashby is father of a professional bowler.
Well, he definitely, yeah, will be soon. He is 17. I mean, I guess he could turn pro anytime he wanted to, and he has talked about that a lot. But yes, my younger son Trevor, he is quite the bowler. He hasn't been doing it for very long. He's only been doing it about 4 years. I got him into. I mean, I'm not a bowler. My dad bowled in league. We're not a family of athletes per se. Uh, but he's just took to it. He came up with his own two-handed style of bowling, which is kind of a common thing. But he learned it on his own. I didn't teach him that. He didn't learn it from anybody else. But I guess his most noteworthy achievement is what would it be, about a year and a half ago now. He placed second out of 631 bowlers in a national competition called Junior Gold, and he won $6,500 in scholarship money for that. So, yeah, he's won a lot of scholarship money. Who knows if he'll use it actually at college, but because he just wants to go pro, this is what he wants to do. But yes, I'm proud of both of my kids, but yeah, Trevor is a little more public. Nathan
Yep.
is my older son, and he's, just kind of he's a car genius. If we had enough money to put him in like go-karts, NASCAR, that kind of stuff, he'd be amazing at that too. But that's a much more expensive hobby than bowling.
And he's at college, right?
He is college age right now. He's taking a break, but yeah, we're he's at the stage of life where like I really got to figure out what I'm going to do, and as a parent, you just are like, okay, let's figure all this out. I'm going to suggest, I'm going to encourage, but I'm not going to mandate. That's what we've always done with our kids.
My difficult conversation along the line was, trust me, it's perfectly fine to be exploring in your 20s. You don't want to be doing it when you're married with two kids and in your 40s.
That's a problem, indeed.
Yeah, and somehow that doesn't work out real well. So I don't know. But you lead such a full life, and it's such a delight to have you here. So, what else is coming up on your radar?
Well, let's see. I have a couple of one acting out show that is planned for next year. We are bringing back our production of Next to Normal. in May at the embassy, just because for a couple of reasons. One was that we were coming out of COVID at that time. I think a lot of people still weren't entirely comfortable. You know, it was July and August of 21. I think a lot of people weren't necessarily comfortable coming out yet to live shows. So a lot of people didn't come because of that. It was also in Kaiser. Our general area of operations is more in the Cumberland, Frostburg area. So I think a lot of people are like, oh, after it was done, you know, we really should have come see that. Well, we're going to have another chance now. But the main reason is at Kaiser High, we were not able to do the stage the way we wanted to. We wanted to have, when Next to Normal has been done traditionally, there's kind of like a two-tiered stage. And Kaiser High's light, we would have been up in their lights if we'd have tried to make too high of a stage there. So in this way, we're going to be able to put it on the way we had originally intended. Now, I am a performer in that one. I am not directing that one. Jaden Courier, who directed it the first time, is directing it again. Laura Groves is our music director, and Jill Keith, who is our regular choreography standby, she is back on the team for that. And most of the original cast will be involved in that. I'm also going to be, as far as directing goes, outside of acting out, directing the production of Courting by Hey Nani Moose. That will be in August, also at the embassy. And then it's up in the air about what we're going to be doing as far as acting out goes next fall. A lot of it is about what places we can find to stage shows. You know, if we can find a school. High schools are great, but if you try to do it during football season, they get a little hinky about, well, there's not going to be parking on a Friday if we have a game, you know. So you have to try to slide in where you can. But there will be something. I won't have as busy of a year in 23 as I had in 22 because that was far too much to do. But it was a great year. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of creativity, met a lot of new people. So, but yeah,
I
that's
know
kind of what's coming.
I know that 22 you felt like you had to make up for a lot of stuff that didn't get done in 21. I'll be honest with you, as a host, I barely often get guests who will tell me what's up for the next 60 days, and you're telling me August 2023. So, bravo, Mark. On, I mean,
I'm nothing if not a planner. I need to know what's going on well ahead of time. That's one of my. If I have an anxiety, it's about something like that. I need to know.
now here's one of the other weird things I don't know if our audience knows for sure, but let's go ahead and make sure. You probably already know, Mark, if you're a fan of audiobooks, because your real day job is that you've narrated how many? Is it a
Well,
thousand?
it's between government work and things you can find on audible.com. Yeah, I'm up around 1,050 or so by now, something like that, 1,040, somewhere in that neighborhood. Most of them have been done for the National Library Service for the blind and print disabled. I've been working for them in some capacity since 1996, but I have been narrating books since about, I think it was like late 99 or early 2000. So yeah, a good 22, 23 years worth of audiobook narration in there. But yeah, I will say it's a great job if you can get it, but it ruins you for reading for pleasure. You just can't do it anymore. It's like you do it all day for work. It's the last thing that you want to do. So I haven't read a book that was actually my choice to read. I do that maybe once every other year or so these days. But it's a great job. Yeah, I enjoy doing it.
Okay, so out of that, then, are do any memorable characters to you that you had the opportunity to play? Because if you're like, I'm sure that you're a professional, you do voices, you do
Mhm.
characters, voices, you have fun. Anybody stick out in your mind? I know
As
it's
far as creating characters goes, I made the bad guy in a what was it? Kind of like a techno thriller one time. I actually made him sound like Bernie Sanders, uh, just for the fun of it. I don't. I think there might have been some indication that he was from like Brooklyn or somewhere like that. So I just decided that that's not how you would expect a fellow to who's playing the bad guy in this sort of techno thriller to sound, but maybe it'll be more interesting for the audience if they can have something that's a little non-traditional in there. So
yep.
yeah, it's always I sometimes try to base things off of characters or even people that I know. Like I've had college professors that whether they knew it or not showed up in audiobooks, my impressions of some of my past teachers, things like that.
And it's one of those things that once you start doing it, I think everybody's had that experience, especially if you've read like bedtime stories to children. They always look at you and go, "Do the voices, do the voices." Now, I'm I'm one of those people, I have kind of the opposite experience because I run movies in my head all day long doing my thing. So I make noises, sound effects. And when I used to run a liquor store, oddly enough, I was pushing a cart of liquor around, getting ready to stock the shelves, and I was making noises like a race car, vroom, vroom. And this lady was really upset about it. And she looked at me and said, "Is it better if you make the noises?" And I was like, "Of course it is. Did you play with your fire truck like this?" No, you make noises. Of course not. So, bravo, your creativity is endless, Mark. Truly is. Now, Mikayla, I'm going to shut up for a second and give you a chance because I've talked like a nonstop fool, except for, of course, our guest who's supposed to. Did you have a question you wanted to throw his way?
Um, I'm just really enjoying hearing everything, but I do have to say, you made a post the other day about one of your readings and about the typos in it, and it literally made me cringe. So I have to ask. He said, "Are there any memorable characters?" What is your most memorable reading as far as like what is your favorite one that you've done, and what is your least favorite, and why?
Oh boy, that book that I just finished just now, which shall remain nameless. I'll just tell you, it was about the early days of like the conflict between the United States and Mexico over Texas. Yeah, that's the things that are bad is when. Well, I guess I should preface it by saying when you do work for the government, they tend to want it to be as close to word perfect as possible, so that the listener, who generally is blind, visually impaired, or has some sort of mobility impairment, they can't access print. They want them to experience the book more or less the same way that a sighted person would. So that includes a lot of times typos and all. But oh my gosh, whenever he uses the word collaborating for corroborating 5 times in a 50-page spread, clearly he just thought that that was the right word. I mean, that's not a mistake 5 times. So
Nope. Nope.
those are the kind of thing. Rather than say like a specific book, it's those types of books that are just poorly edited that I just it's regardless of the subject material. I was actually really looking forward to that book because I like historic nonfiction books. That's kind of something that's in my wheelhouse. But whenever that sort of thing crops up, I'm like just waiting to get it over with.
Dude,
As far Mhm.
it's where you want to grab your phone and do the whole Inigo Montoya. I do not think that word means what you think it means. You
That's
know?
made a lot of faces at that, and the number of times that he used the word ironic or ironically. It was in a searchable PDF, and in a 400 some page book, it said 113 times. I know it had to be more than that because I would see 3 on a page sometimes.
Oh my
So
god.
yeah, just it was not edited. Um, but as far as books that I enjoy or authors that I enjoy, I did get to narrate one of the books for the not for commercial purposes, but for the National Library Service. One of Dan Brown's Langdon books, The Lost Symbol. I got to do that one. So I know a lot of people listened to me doing that. Whether it was a pretty decent book in that whole Da Vinci Code series. My favorite authors tend to be actually from Spain. There's an author by the name of Arturo Perez Reverte. I read a few books of his. One was called Queen of the South, that was particularly good. And he had a book of his. It was called The Club Dumas that was turned into a movie called The Ninth Gate with Johnny Depp. The book was way better than the movie, but I liked his book. There was another fellow wrote a book called The Shadow of the Wind. Carlos Ruiz Zafón is his name. So I don't know what it is about Spanish writers and their translators, obviously, because I'm not reading it in Spanish. But there's something about maybe they have a style that they learn or that they gravitate toward in that country that just it really it's lyrical and it really works well and it lends itself well to storytelling. And that's whenever you get a book like that, that's the best thing you can have is that you do forget that you're doing a job.
Having lived in Spain, I can tell you that yes, they do have a special, and they're very proud of it. They tell you every Spaniard is a storyteller. And if you've ever gone for drinks at a pub in the evening, after work, trust me, everybody's got a story and they all want to take their turn telling you about it, you know. So I think that's one of the reasons for the siesta. You get up in a regular work day and then you come home and eat a huge meal and then you work late in the evening and you talk even later. So, but yeah, I too love Spanish storytelling. Although, gotta ask, who you rooting for in the World Cup?
You broke up there. What was the question again?
Who are you pulling for? I'm for Wales.
Oh, of course. Got to be Wales. I'm Welsh myself, so I mean, it's if you go by my heritage, it's either Wales, England, or Germany. So Wales for me. That sounds good. My name is a Welsh name. I thought my last name, so I've been told.
Mine,
Yeah,
mine
plenty of Welsh.
too. And
Hmm.
I could choose the English or the Germans, but I'm trying to choose one that wasn't involved directly in starting or participating in one. Got tagged along.
Yeah. Wales would be a good choice. I'm sure and maybe one of the underdog countries from Africa, possibly like Senegal. That could be kind of fun as well.
Yeah, they have a tough match today against the Netherlands. It wasn't going so well. They were nil all the way through, and then sadly, right at the end, gave up their goals. So
Yeah, well.
anyway, Mikayla, do you care about World Cup?
I go sports team.
As I think it was the comedian Brian Regan said, go my favorite sports team, vanquish the enemy in the skirmish. Get a
I
unit on the board.
I actually like sports, but I know that a number of people that don't, they actually spend their time worrying about who's what ball through what apparatus. So.
Mm.
But what people do wonder about is how do you become a Mark Ashby? So you're talking about your favorite authors that you've read professionally. How about those that influenced you when you were a young person growing up? How did you become Mark Ashby?
If we're talking about the books that I read, I read a lot of Stephen King. Maybe that influenced what I turned into. I don't know. I mean, I fell off somewhere around Needful Things. I hated the ending of Needful Things, and I just got mad at him, and I don't think I read much of him after that. I was in the library quite a lot. I mean, it was the Frostburg Library used to be. It's what is it? An insurance building now, but whenever I was a kid, it was in that like a little bit further down the hill on Main Street than where it is now, and on the other side of the street. I spent many an hour down in the basement there when I was, you know, elementary school age, and then I got to late elementary and middle school, and I started wanting to read the adult books. Um, I was into things like dragons, and I checked out a lot of those kind of books, or from the school library. I was into a lot of the fantasy and science fiction. Um, so that would drew me to things like Star Trek. Next Generation was one of my favorite TV shows ever. Um, but as far as becoming who I am now, or in the job that I have now as an audiobook narrator kind of person, it really combines the three things that I like most. You have reading, you have audio production, and you have a fanatical attention to detail. Which, as anybody who has been on the receiving end of anything that I've edited before, could tell you that yeah, I can go overboard with that. So I mean, it was sort of, I lucked into the job whenever I lived in Laurel for a few years, and I was going to graduate school for public relations. Happened to see an ad in the paper next to the public relations internship ads for publishing for this company that was doing audiobook work for the government. Got a evening job there, decided I liked that better than going to grad school, so I never finished my master's, and I made a good life out of it.
Hey, no worries. I'm the son of a PhD, and I took my college degree and ran across that stage because I was done. So sadly, when you want to be a producer, there aren't that many good schools out there that teach you how to do it.
Hey, can you hear the fire whistle that's going off outside of my window right now?
Is that
One of
what
the
that is?
That is what that is. Here in Springfield, West Virginia, we live right next to the well, not right next to the fire station, but yeah, we're right in the middle of town here. So I apologize for that interruption. It's a B flat, Mikayla, in case you're wondering. I tested that with my tuner, so we can incorporate it into the show. This is improv, right? So
Yes, yes, it is.
my ride is
When it
here. Yeah.
came on, I thought we'd said the secret word and won a prize. Ding, 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 ding.
It should go maybe two more times. Yeah. Anyway, and then it might start up again if they don't have enough people to respond to the call. So anyway, that was a lovely little interruption.
Let's just hope it's for a call for nothing, a call for
Yes, I
something
hope so as
simple
well.
in need of them. I think we've gotten Mikayla frozen, so we'll keep on going here. Now, we did advertise a great debate.
Mhm.
Which side do you want to take? Does the best cranberry sauce retain the shape of the can or not?
I think, boy, I could go either way with it. I think I can make more arguments for in favor of not. So I will take that side.
That's fine. I will take pro can, and we will make our arguments. Let the audience decide. Now, chat. I know we haven't had a chance to engage you too much. If you've got questions for Mark, this is an opportunity for you to throw them at us. Trey, if you wouldn't letting me know if we've got any out there that are interesting, because for whatever reason my phone has decided to die on me tonight. I can't monitor the broadcast. So, would you like the floor first, or would you like me to code the points regarding the can?
I'll let you begin. Start off with the opening arguments.
Oh God, he's just giving me home field advantage. Okay,
Sure.
real simple. There's a reason they did it in a can. Okay, cranberries are awful fruit. They're sour. They're difficult to work with. You have to put in tons of sugar, and it's not like there are that many formulas for a cranberry sauce that are any good at all. And in fact, other than smearing it around to mix with other foods on your plate, you really don't take big spoonfuls of cranberry sauce and heap them into your mouth. So it wouldn't make any difference whether it was made any other way. But here's the argument as to why the can is best. It's best because they put it in the can. They've tried thousands of formulations, and none of them were as good as the one that they put in the can. And it doesn't matter who makes it in the can, it all tastes the same when it comes out of the can. And that's why the can having the in your sauce is superior.
All right. Well, I mean, valid points on a lot of that, and as someone who certainly has grown up and probably had cranberry sauce from a can more than I have had it otherwise, uh, I can relate to a lot of that. I do take issue with the fact that the cranberry is an awful fruit, however, because some folks like me actually enjoy that sort of tartness. We like, as I think we had a great debate when I was part of a cast as a cast member of Cinderella for Apple Alley Players. There was a debate over pineapple or watermelon, which was the better fruit, and somebody said pineapple is because it is the fruit that attempts to eat you. So cranberries are much the same way. You know, it's like you actually have to engage in a battle with them. Um,
Wait,
so
you sure have
I enjoy that. Uh, but the can, okay, so there is a certain comfort in knowing that yes, you're getting exactly what you know bought, and you don't have these strange recipes. However, it does feel like you're not. Whenever you know that there is an alternative, it feels like there has not been any effort made to for enjoyment. It just feels like all I could do was open this thing up and just shovel it out here. I had once a a cranberry sauce that had the actual cranberries in it. There goes the fire whistle again. So I will talk over it as best I can. The the recipe that we had something like walnuts in it and blueberries, and just I'm sure there was a little bit of sweetening with the sugar in there, and it looked so delightful. I was having way more than just little spoonfuls of it. That's the first time that I ever went back for seconds on the cranberry sauce, and I felt love. I felt like somebody had put some time into it, that they really cared about it, and that person was my mother-in-law. So just there is a lot to be said for putting in the time. I mean, Thanksgiving, yes, you're making all of this other stuff, but to go that far, and then something that is sort of a dessert item to just be like, I ran out of steam and here's that. Why not go the whole way, and why not come up with the actual recipe? Put the effort in, make it look good, give good presentation. We all watch the Food Network, right? A lot of it is about the presentation, and quite frankly, your presentation is lacking a lot with the can.
Oh, maybe it's comforting. That's the other thing. You see the can, you see the striations, you know it's there. I totally get what you mean with when you're talking about the variety that's there. Because I would always love to see somebody do something interesting with cranberries. And I like tart stuff too. My problem is it's just I it seems so extra. It's like mint jelly on lamb. Why?
Why? Because it's there. Because it's my one of my, if not my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, and a lot of it has to do with the food, food and fellowship. That was it was my mother's favorite holiday, so I think that kind of transferred to me. So I mean, I'm sure downstairs we've probably got our canned up cranberry sauce, which I'm not opposed to. I won't turn my nose up at it, but gosh, it's just you do feel that extra sense of somebody cares for me whenever they put in the effort to make it look a little better.
I understand that. Of course, my personal theory on that is I'd rather spend the extra time on the turkey because I'm going to eat a whole lot more turkey than cranberry sauce.
Well, hopefully that whoever is cook, maybe we'll spread it around. Okay, the person who's doing the turkey and maybe some of the other things, don't have them do the cranberry sauce. You bring that somebody who's specialty, that is. Make that your specialty.
Ooh, you're well mannered. You actually bring things when you're invited places.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, it depends if I'm asked or not.
True that. True that. True that. All right. So, Trey, I can't read chat. Has anybody in chat had a question for our friend or wanted to chime in on our debate? Man in the booth.
Play the game. I can't stand it when people do that. Why not both? Or
I just realized that they can't hear me out there at all.
Yeah.
All right, now they can hear me. Hi, folks. It's the man in the booth here. So far, Scott, Mark, Christy had started out pro-can, and you are turning her anti-can. We have one person who doesn't like either.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Gotta play the game.
Personally, I am pro-can. There's nothing you will ever say to change my mind.
All right. So obviously we hit the topic with some really strong opinions here. Mikayla, where do you stand on all of it?
I'm pro can because with the can I know what you're getting. So I'm pro can because it always tastes the same. It's traditional.
That brings up such a good topic. Okay, the quality of sauce. Okay, like if you're with somebody who's like 40 or 50 and they've invited you to dinner, you don't really worry about it so much because like they probably made it that day. If you're going to somebody who's 70 and they say, I've got a can of cranberry sauce, and they pull it out of God only knows what storehouse, how outages has that thing been through? God only knows what it was made with to begin with.
I have a counterpoint to that, because I had a really old can of cranberry sauce in my cupboard until last year, and that can wasn't, like, the date on it wasn't until next year, 2023. It had been in there for at least 4 years. I ate it and it tasted wonderful, and I did not get sick.
Now, is that really a product feature that we want to highlight? This stuff is so pumped full of things that it will last through the nuclear holocaust. I mean, or do you want something that's freshly done? Come on.
Look,
I'm going to opt for the nice looking stuff.
If we are in the end times and I'm surviving on cans of cranberry sauce and Twinkies, I will be a happy man.
This isn't end times, it's Thanksgiving dinner. It's not going to be your last Thanksgiving dinner, right?
Although you've been to any of my family's Thanksgiving dinners. Thank you, I appreciate that update. We'll try and keep it going. Now, I gotta say, if you win Christy over, you've won someone for court. Now, Christy is your cousin.
Yes.
To a degree, there's a family connection. I'm trying not to show any bias here. But I will say that she also really likes a very traditional Thanksgiving meal. And it's one of the few things she looks forward to every year. I can experiment with Christmas or Easter, but Thanksgiving, it's turkey and stuffing and, green bean casserole.
Yeah, we tend to. Well, we're related on the Schweitzer, my mother's side of things. So that's probably, there could be a lot of the connection there as well between us. But yeah, I think we did ham once back. Oh boy, I'm not sure. It was since I've been married, and I think we just all felt that wasn't quite right.
I can see that. Wait a minute. I can see it now. Everybody finished their meal. They wipe their face and they just look at each other and go, well, that was a mistake.
We shan't be repeating this, shall we? No.
We shall never speak of this again.
We didn't have Thanksgiving that year. Yeah, no, it's traditions are good, but when it comes to cranberry sauce, branch out a little bit. It's still the same food, more or less. It's just got nice little extra things to it, rather than just a glop of Jello looking stuff there.
All right. Well, we'll let that be for a moment. But with Thanksgiving coming up, what's the dish you're looking forward to personally yourself?
It's usually the potatoes. I'm one of those, when they ask you, what's your favorite form of potato? My answer is yes. It doesn't really matter what the form of potato is. So, put a little butter and salt, a little gravy on top. Nothing too fancy. Sometimes we do a mac and cheese, not every year. But yeah, it's usually more about the sides for me than anything else. I'm a potato stuffing, corn kind of guy.
Me too.
I'm stuffing. Stuffing is the key for me. Mikayla, what's your dish?
So I'm all about the potatoes too. But as we're sitting here talking about this, I realized that because we're going to my mom's for Thanksgiving, and it's been a while since we've been to my mom's, and she always makes the sweet potatoes with the marshmallows. But Zach is used to this sweet potato crunch that he introduced me to when we started dating, and I have never eaten sweet potatoes the same way again in my life. So we might actually have to make that sweet potato crunch and bring it with us. But it's got like nuts and like cinnamon sugar on top, and oh my gosh, it's really good. Yeah.
I sense, I sense a family story coming for years now. The War of the Sweet Potatoes.
They're not allowed to come over anymore for holidays.
Right.
They're really nice people. Made that weird sweet potato thing.
We did make it for my grandmother, and my grandmother loved it. She was like, she really was. She was like, there's no way we can have these without the marshmallows on top. And Zach was like, just try it, grandma, please. And my grandma was like, wow, yeah, you know what, you got to make sweet potato crunch. So
Which goes toward my cranberry sauce thing. Branch out, try
it
something
does,
new.
it does.
Look how it worked out for Grandma.
We do
I
have.
saw how that was working against me here. I was like, we've got to go for diversity, and that argues for Mark's point of view. Now Mark is bringing me to his point of view. Oh, where's
We-
that Bernie Sanders when you need it?
we do have some more feedback from chat. Marianne is pro homemade, and says that cranberry sauce should not be sliced.
Ooh,
Oh, okay.
I guess cranberry sauce is not a surgery. Thank you, Marianne. Trey, what are you looking forward to since you've come out from behind the curtain tonight?
My wife makes a fantastic green bean casserole. It's the biggest dish on the table because she knows that I will load my plate with it for days and days and days. I will be eating that green bean casserole until Sunday, and I will be pleased to do it.
Wow. Wow. Well, tell Chelsea that, good on her. That's great. Holiday traditions?
As far as Thanksgiving goes, watch
Yeah.
the football games while they're, if you're not eating. We're in a new house this year. We lived in the house we were in Rawlings for almost 20 years, and most of the Thanksgivings that we had were hosted there. So this year we've got kind of a dedicated dining room rather than just an area of the kitchen. So we can spread out a little more, I think. We have 6 people in this house. My wife's parents live with us too. My father will be coming and my brother will be coming from Baltimore. So we'll have 8, as usual, and 3 dogs begging for scraps, but 2 of whom are on special diets and can't have any of that. But yeah, I mean, the football is a big part of it. And then putting up the tree, Christmas tree decorations are the day after usually.
Not okay. So not hitting shopping malls, doing it in that Black Friday participation.
It has happened in the past, but I think my wife is over all of that, and I never was into that at all. So
But I am surprised to hear you saying you're putting up your Christmas tree the day after Thanksgiving. Michaela, do you do that?
So this year I've already got all my Christmas decorations up because I knew if I didn't do it now, I would never have the time to get it done before Christmas. So I seized the moment and put everything up. But the ornaments are not on the tree. That is something we're saving for December.
Good deal. My family, we never were allowed to get a tree until the end of December, and then Christmas, everybody has to. This year, our tree is probably out this tall.
Yeah, we've had a few like that. The older the kids get, the smaller the tree gets. That was sort of the. And now they're 20 and 17, so we're gonna have Charlie Brown's tree eventually.
Mine, the only cats that we had, the only kids we had, are furry, and they would tend to tear everything to pieces. So. How many animals do you have, Mark?
We have three dogs. We have one. Well, we used to have small, medium, and large, but after large passed away, we just got a slightly bigger medium. So the smallest one is a Pomeranian Corgi mix, as we call that, incognito. She looks like a Pomeranian in a Corgi shape. And her name's Lily. Then we have the one that's in the middle, Ernie. He is an Australian Shepherd, kind of a mixed brindle colored. He's so beautiful, and he knows it. And then our husky Nuka, which means little sister in Inuktitut, as we learned. We call her our plushie. She's the quietest husky I've ever met, but she is as weird as every husky you've ever encountered in your life. And she is actually our second husky. We had a husky German Shepherd mix a few years ago as well, and he was mouthy, that one. So we were expecting Nuka to be the same, and she's not at all.
Now, when you say they're mouthy, are you thinking that they're barkers or are they warblers? Do they make
warbler? Oh, Toke was a total warbler. He was a So yeah, he definitely talked to you. But no, Nuka's she'll bark occasionally and give you a little bit of attitude. But yeah, she's just more about swatting you in the face when she wants attention, and sitting by the door, and like, when are you gonna do this? We got to go out this way now, right? But yeah, she is. She'll cuddle up with you. She's. I really love huskies. My wife and I were just talking about that. Like, if we have to pick a breed, huskies probably it. They're a lot of work, but boy, they give it back to you. They give all that love back.
Well, it kind of gives me to the last question, I suppose, which is, if you had to say one surprising thing that most folks don't know about you, what would that be?
A surprising thing. Let's see. Probably that if I had a musical that I would never, ever, ever choose to do. Some people do know this about me, but you think like musical theater, go for like the big things. Directors think about like huge sets and great songs and all that kind of stuff. The musical that I will never ever do unless I am like paid millions of dollars, or the charity that we're working for is being paid millions of dollars to do. I cannot stand Beauty and the Beast. Cannot stand it. Overdone. The story sucks. The music isn't that good. Characters are, but aside from Lumiere and LeFou, maybe a little bit, it's an awful musical. So yeah, I don't know if that's very surprising, but yeah, as a musical theater person, Beauty and the Beast, thumbs down.
Look at Mikayla. You can tell that she's surprised. Mikayla.
Yeah.
Literally, Aria is watching Beauty and the Beast as we speak.
I'm not saying, it's just not for me. I'll put it that way. Not for me. I'm not the target demographic of that. Yeah, that's the first thing that popped into my head is, something surprising about me, I guess.
As a producer, the one it would be how to succeed in business without ever trying. It's just, there's no succeeding in business without trying. There's no succeeding in anything without trying. And even just the suggestion of it is stupid. So, okay, that being easy, an easy one to answer. Advice you have for people that want to be like you.
That want to do to be involved in theater, to do audiobook. Well, I mean, the audiobook thing, people ask me about that all the time. I read really well to my grandkids. I love reading bedtime stories. And I always say, okay, there's a video that I direct people to online by a guy named Sean Pratt, who's an audiobook narrator. I will say, okay, can you do it sitting with a microphone in front of you, about this far away from it for 3 or 4 hours at a stretch. Can you do that without going crazy? Can you do that every day? Then maybe you have a future in the business. But yeah, you really have to know your I got not limitations, but know what it's about before you sit down and just say like, oh, I can read out loud. Can you do it without making a lot of noises with your mouth? Can you do it without inhaling like that? It's almost like a sport. You have to be kind of athletic with it all. So now that's not to say that people can't do it, but learning on the job, I had to learn a lot about breath control. It's kind of like singing in that sense.
Yeah.
Um, how to swallow without being heard. Do a lot of these kind of things.
Yep.
But as far as the charitable community theater kind of things, I mean, just as far as acting out for good goes, we welcome pretty much everybody who wants to have a good time, who is of kindergarten age or up for most shows, any of these all age shows that we do. Um, you don't have to ever have any sort of dance ability or singing ability even necessarily. If you just enjoy performing and you just enjoy giving back and you like to be around like-minded people, then you can either be part of our casts or you can start your own sort of thing as well. I mean, it's basically community theater with that added component of giving back. And I've had a great team around with for years now that has been a part of it. My wife has been a big help with that. Several music directors and choreographers over the years. A lot of them are too many to name, but we're good friends outside of this. Just don't be a jerk. Just enjoy yourself, and it'll. Everybody's going to love the show that you put on, no matter what. That's what I always say. Like, don't stress about it too much. You have a sympathetic audience. I'm not
Yep.
going to stress about it. You enjoy yourself. It'll come across.
Okay, so we'll just type that up as the headline for the show. Don't be a jerk, Mark Ashby.
That's how I try to live my life. I hope I've lived up to that.
Oh,
That only people in the cast and crew can really judge.
never known you to be a jerk, and I've known you for a good long time, and I'm a jerk, so I know. Great, let's check the chat. What do they got? Anything for our guest tonight?
Let's see. Getting lots of hearts, lots of laughs.
Well, it's good that we're getting the feedback. Mark, it's been a delight to have you on the show. Last chance, tell me what's coming up again. Rudolph is when?
Rudolph is December 2nd to 4th at Brown Middle School. You can go to our website, actingoutforgood.com. We're also on Facebook. You can get more information about that, but it's going to be a fun time at the middle
And if you
school.
guys in the audience forget that, you can always stop him in your local Weiss's Line or Martin's and ask him questions because he is a local. We love you, Mark. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so glad.
Mikayla, thanks so much. Anything you want to close with Mark with?
Thanks for having me here, as always. Mark, thanks for being here. And I can't wait to see the show. I've already got my tickets for opening night. So
Awesome.
looking forward to it.
I will see you there. We expect packed houses.
Woohoo!
Yes, please go see the show. And we will see you, the audience, back here next month, December 19th, when we'll have another guest and another fun time talking about the arts and useless debate topics. Thanks so much from me and from Mikayla. Mark, you get to say your own thanks.
Thanks to Scott, Mikayla, Trey for hiding behind the curtain there. But yeah, and thanks for everybody for watching. Thanks for supporting us. If you've been one of our Acting Out supporters over the years, we can't do it without you. Really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for what you do. And thank you, audience, for watching. We'll catch you next month. I'm Scott Ford saying good night, and we appreciate you.
Whoa, dance and glow. The good days never seem to last. They're gone before you know. Ooh, feel that glow. And savor the taste of life as you go.